Hey y'all! Thanks for tuning in to another video. I'm B if you're new here. I am a digital illustrator who loves to draw with a dreamy, vibey storybook feel. In today's video, I'll be illustrating new art for my end screen that will appear at the end of my videos. And while I draw, I'll be breaking up this video into 5 points on the topic of tips that I wish I knew or wish I listened to when I was just starting out. Hopefully this video will help some of you guys as beginners not to fall into some of the not very productive art habits like I did, which held my progress back a while. Of course, I have to note that I am not a professional art teacher. I'm just an artist with experience, and my advice is subjective based on my own experience. So take away the points that you find helpful and know that we all learn differently and you might have different takeaways. One more thing I want to say before we get started. I just reached 500 followers and I want to say thank you so much to all of my new followers on this channel. My first milestone as an art YouTuber is 1K and we're halfway there. So thank you so much for all of the support, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe so you can watch this small channel grow. Now getting into the video with point number 1, slow and steady wins the race. I don't know about you, but when I was just starting out, I was very influenced by short form content and how it looked like other artists were finishing their pieces in less than a minute. While I know that that wasn't true, my brain could not get past the feeling of needing to rush, and a voice in my head told me that the faster I can finish a piece, the more experienced it made me look. Have you ever seen a tagline that said, "Learn how to draw finished illustrations in under an hour," or seeing another artist's work with their caption saying, "This took me somewhere around 2 or 3 hours," or another small number? While I'm not discrediting that some artists have mastered their skills so much that it may not take them a lot of time, I want to make the point very clear that the time you take on your art does not determine whether or not you're a good artist. I feel like social media has us spiraling into thinking that our art only matters if ... Our art is only impressive if we can complete a masterpiece in a short amount of time. Our art only counts if we can draw from memory and not using reference photos. Which, by the way, side note, is a completely valid thing to do. Our art only matters if somehow it looks different from every other artist out there. It can be very easy for us to get swept up in those ideas, making us feel this anxiety that we just need to get good fast. The time you take on your art is the time that you need to take. And just to reiterate again, because I feel like this sentence explains it well, the time that you take on your art does not determine whether or not you are a good artist. What matters is that you take the time to learn art, that you love it, that you put your heart and who you are into what you make. That makes you a good artist. This leads me to point number 2. Every good artist was a beginner, and success is not linear. No doubt you have artists that you look up to, professional established artists that show their talents through their finished work. Maybe they make a living off of their art. Maybe they're working with cool brands or got to create art books to share their own expertise. We as consumers see that part of established artists, but what we don't see is the years that come before the professionalism when they were just beginners starting out and filling up sketchbooks with quote unquote bad art in order to get where they are today. When I was a beginner, I had tunnel vision on what it looked like to be a professional artist, but I never allowed myself to think of what it was like for them when they were a beginner as well. If you're struggling with comparing yourself to other artists, I highly recommend looking at more artists who are in a similar place in their art journey as you. It's not bad at all to have artists that you look up to and get inspired by, but it's also very important to know that there are so many artists that are not on top of the ladder, but are climbing it just as you are. It's also very important to know that even experienced artists make, again, quote unquote, bad art. I know that I have streaks of making art that I love and that I'm proud of, and then I'll make a few art pieces that I feel like are less than perfect, to say the least, and that's all part of it. I appreciate those pieces just the same because failure is a part of the success. Point number 3 is learn the rules so that you know how to break them. This is one of my favorite tips when I was just starting out, though I did not do my best to take it to heart. I'm going to get ahead of myself for just a second here, but when I was a beginner, I wanted my own art style so badly that I would practice how to find my art style over practicing the fundamentals. I feel like this was the thing that held me back for so long. I'll talk about art style more in a second, but if I could go back and change one thing, it would be to focus on learning the rules before anything else. When you know how to draw hands in any position, different body types in different poses, and just have an understanding of how shapes work and how objects and people move, you'll be able to draw any idea that comes to you. I can't stress this enough that for years I would have ideas that I couldn't execute because I didn't know how to draw a body at a certain angle or a background in a certain perspective. When you learn the fundamentals, you'll be able to apply that to whatever you want to draw. And if you want to break the rules, meaning to stylize your drawings in ways that aren't realistic, you'll understand how to do that while maintaining proper skill. Now going back to talking about art style, in point number 4, finding your art style is not what's important. When you put precedence in finding a style over learning the fundamentals, you're missing so many key lessons that would have in turn helped you build an art style in the long run, because finding your style comes naturally with building up your skills over time. It comes with mixing the fundamentals that you already know with elements that you know that you like to draw. When you skip ahead and try to find an art style without learning the basics, I feel like that can easily lead you to learn incorrectly, or at least it did with me. Another thing about this is that even if you do have an art style, it will probably change over the course of your art journey. And in the case with a lot of artists, their style of drawing changes with the subject or their mood. Many artists don't have one set art style, but rather they draw how they feel at any given point, which is, in my opinion, still their art style, because it's the style in which they are drawing. And it's just as valid as another artist who only draws in one very specific way. If you have anxiety about finding your art style, remember that having one specific art style is not the factor that validates you as an artist. I wish I could go back and tell my younger self that, so hopefully it helps to hear that. And also that your art style will come a lot more naturally in time if you don't push for it, but instead learn the basics. I feel like it will honestly be a lot more productive in the long run. This brings us to point number 5. You are an artist because you make art. I used to say that I was aspiring to be an artist rather than an aspiring artist because I was aware that I didn't have all the fundamental skills. I held off calling myself an artist for years because I felt like people would question it if I showed them some of my artwork and it was less than perfect. In my opinion, what makes a person an artist is not what they make, but the time and heart that they put into learning their craft. If you are creating because you love it and it brings you value and you want to continue to learn and be curious, you are a creative and you are an artist. Wherever you're at in your art journey, keep going and know that it's not about reaching the top, but it's about enjoying the process. This brings us to the end of the video and into my finished illustration for my end credit. I could not be happier with how this turned out, and I'm so excited for you to see it at the end of my videos, starting with this one. Look how cute it is with all of the end screen credits. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe so we can reach the first milestone of 1,000 followers, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!